Hello, my name is Chris Bernotas. I am the Director of Instrumental School Methods and Repertoire for Alfred Music. I'm incredibly excited to be here with one of my good friends and one of the best-selling authors in the world, Mr. Dave Black. Dave is the author and or co-author of over 30 books, including Sound Innovations for Concert Band, Books 1 and 2, The Alfred Drum Method, and of course, Sound Percussion and Sound Percussion Ensembles. Thanks for joining us today, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this wonderful Thursday or whatever day it is.
I think it is a Thursday. And this doesn't count as your 5 questions, but tell everybody where you are, what city, what state.
I'm in Woodland Hills, California, and Woodland Hills is in Los Angeles County. So I'm talking from my home office right now.
Very nice. Me too. All right, here we go. 5 questions, which is what this is called. 5 questions with Dave Black. The first question is, what is your most prominent memory or recollection from your school music program? Any level.
That's a pretty easy one. I think the most prominent one would have to be in 1976 when high school jazz band did their annual jazz concert at the end of the year. And that year, the guest was Louis Bellson, who stayed at our house for 3 days, and we became quite close. And of course, that ended up changing my life forever, because I had planned on going to North Texas State or University of Miami, but he encouraged me to come out to Cal State Northridge and study with him. So I did a complete about-face in my senior year in high school, and the rest is kind of history. But, you know, playing with him that night, having him mentor me, having him stay at our house for 3 days, and then everything that led to, you know, me coming out to California and our professional relationship starting in terms of writing books together, writing tunes together, all those kinds of things, whatever, really changed my life.
It's amazing that you can actually trace it back to like a specific experience and how that one relationship can completely alter everything. And that's so important in our field as teachers or writers and being in music.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, it's very possible that I could have ended up coming out to Los Angeles at some point. But the fact of the matter is he lived in Northridge. And so he would pick me up at the dorms or whatever and take me to his recording sessions with Sarah Vaughan and Oscar Peterson and stuff. And so I was in his, you know, orbit the entire time. He took me to every gig or every recording he ever made when it was local. And he also hired me as a copyist, whatever, to copy some of his new jazz band tunes and stuff, which was a source of income for me since I didn't have a car or any other means of making money at that time. So he was a lifesaver.
That's pretty incredible. And it reminds me of something you told me too about, well, the job that I'm doing now editorially is like part of the excitement is when you find somebody and they're under your wing and you kind of carry them along with you. And I think that's that pay it forward mentality. I mean, it's you as a human being, but it's interesting to see that that's a characteristic in kind of what we do in your life in general. So
it is, and that ended up actually being kind of the catalyst of how I've lived my life since or whatever. If somebody of that, you know, that fame and stuff, taking such a nobody under their wings or whatever, I pretty much vowed at that point or whatever that if ever I was in a position, you know, to buy somebody dinner, lunch, to help in any way, that I would do that. And that is a direct result of how he lived his life, for sure.
That's awesome. That's going to bring me to question number 2. So since you traveled from your hometown to California, I also know that you like to travel. That's one of your exciting things to do. So of the places you've been to, where has been your favorite travel destination?
Yeah, that's a hard one to pick or whatever, but I think I'm going to stick with Egypt and Jerusalem. I mean, they're the Great Wall was great, was wonderful. I mean, Machu Picchu, all those places, Europe is wonderful, but Egypt and Jerusalem are the birthplace of Western civilization. So to go and climb, the pyramids, which are thousands of years old, and to go back and, review that history, and the same in Jerusalem, regardless of what religion you are, just the history that happened there and over several thousand years is just remarkable. So I think that those probably are two big standouts for me.
That's
And I
amazing.
still want to go back to Egypt a second time. They're getting ready to open the new Egyptian museum up next year. That's enormous and that will house just about everything. And so I'm kind of thinking about maybe going back and revisiting.
That's pretty inspirational because my travel is like here, in New Jersey, where I am, to Disney, back to New Jersey, back to Disney, back to New Jersey. So I have to expand my horizons to go out and see the rest of the world like
But
that.
that's okay. If you go to Disney World or whatever, you can go to Epcot Center and visit all those countries without, having to leave home.
Yeah, I've done that, and we'll hopefully do that again pretty soon. So along with your travel, I've seen just most recently, actually, the incredible photographic work that you do. I didn't realize how much of a passion that was for you. It seems like that's a whole nother avenue of your life that seems to be uh, inspired. So how did you come about being into photography, and to what level are you into it?
Well, I'm into it pretty heavily. I think I've always been interested in photography. I think where I started to become serious about it was my first trip, my first cruise gig for the summer to South America, the Bahamas, the Caribbean, and so on. I was rooming with a friend of mine who was the trombone player who was a photographer. And so it was a great 3 or 4 months to be able to get his feedback, to have him kind of train me to kind of look at what I was doing and make suggestions. And so I learned a lot from him. But the photography, the love of photography comes from, the same passion I have for music, is that, music can take you to a faraway place. It can create a mood or, an area, a scenic kind of thing, a situation. And photography does the same thing. I mean, if you do photography right and you can capture unique angles and stuff, it tells a story. It can take you to a faraway place. It can, share emotions, whether it's good or bad, or showing somebody who's struggling by their facial, expression, their age, any of those kinds of things, kind of tells you a lot about, the people of that country and the environment in which they live. And photography, like composition, I think has a lot of the same elements. I mean, there has to be a balance in, the photo and in a composition. I mean, they both take you someplace. They both can generate different kinds of emotion and stuff. So it was, I think, a natural tie-in and stuff. And I'm not one to buy a lot of tchotchkes and stuff when I travel and stuff. So my photographs really are something very special to me. It drives everybody crazy because I'm constantly looking for the right angle or the light source, or I need to be at this particular point at a certain time of day in order for and if you're not really into photography, that gets a little annoying sometimes.
They have to have patience with your perfectionism.
That's true.
Do you actually print any out, or is it all digital now?
It's mostly digital now, but when it was kind of half and half, I have some that I've printed out because we have them framed and hanging on the walls, or people ask for, a copy of a certain photo or whatever. So yeah, I some of them are printed. And I do have 2 books of photography that are out, which are obviously printed. So yeah.
Search around and find that.
Because printing, as you know, with book publishing and everything else, there's a lot that goes into the art of printing. I mean, color balance and sharpness, and did you capture the balance correctly? Is it, centered? All that kind of stuff. So I like that whole process.
I'm not surprised by
Yeah.
that. All right, a very lighthearted question. Along with your travel and everything that we do, we like to eat. What is your favorite food?
I have a few. I mean, it used to be Chinese food used to be my favorite, but I would say that when I go out and eat or pick up food and bring it home or whatever, that my four go-to restaurants are, Indian, Italian, Thai, and Chinese. So those would be my four. Huh?
Those are lots of flavors, very
Lots of
flavorful.
flavors. And I'm kind of picky about which one. So we go to the same restaurants that we have for years and years because they're unique and, good food and stuff. But I would say those four are probably I also like Mexican food, but don't get that very often.
Again, like music, you have a wide palette that you really enjoy, actually.
Yeah, well, it's just like, you go to Brazil or whatever, and it's, a Latin kind of food. You go to China. I've always liked Chinese food. Indian food, I love Indian food, the curries and stuff like that. So, yeah, what's funny is that I will play it safe in the countries that I go to and not typically go outside of, the hotel restaurants unless it's something that's really recommended, because I don't want to take a risk of, getting sick or not knowing what I'm eating. So I'm not as adventurous that way. I don't stop at street vendors. I don't, do that kind of thing. So
you're locally adventurous around your house.
Yeah. That's where I get my fill. I play it safe when I travel, and then and get the stuff here when I get back. So
that's great. All right, I'm going to bring it back on my fifth question, bring it back to music a little bit. You get to work with a lot of amazing people, one of them being Peter Erskine.
Mhm.
And I wanted to know if you have any secrets you want to dish about him.
Secrets. He doesn't have very many secrets. And if he did, I probably wouldn't.
That's smart. So now I'm going to ask him that question
on a video interview like this.
He's going to be one of our guests too, so I'll ask him the same question and see if he's got the same trust.
But it's not a secret. But I mean, a couple of things that I can share is he has a love of photography too, and he has a really nice, small camera that he travels with and stuff, and he loves to take photos at sessions and around around his travels. And so we do share a lot of pictures, or he'll send me things and stuff. And the other thing is that, he's married to a Japanese woman named Mutsi. And so their house is very, traditional Japanese style in a way. And they kind of practice the norms in a Japanese household. So when you go visit his house, you're asked to take your shoes off and, just keep them at the door and stuff. So there's those kinds of things or whatever that a lot of people may not know about Peter, but
that's very cool. That's awesome to know. Very interesting. All right, your bonus question, and then you're off the hook, is, again, working with so many people, who is your favorite co-author? You don't have to answer that. I'm just kidding.
Well, there's a new guy named Chris Bernotas that has kind of come on board or whatever, and he's up there.
Oh, good. Okay, we can stop there. That's good.
But actually, I'm pretty lucky because I have had 3 or 4 co-authors or whatever that have all been outstanding. You're certainly one of them. Sandy Feldstein was great and the right person for the drum method and the drum set method. Then, I had Steve Houghton for the kids' drum courses with, the cartoon characters and stuff, and he was really great with that. Then, I had Peter Erskine, and those were entirely different kinds of books. They were professional kind of books of, taking all of our knowledge from many, many years of experience and giving, professional information to those who are getting started in the business and so on. And then came you for, the books that we've worked on and stuff. And all of them have been, there's not a best of them. They're all high quality folks who are great at their craft, who are recognized in their field as being the top in their field. And the books themselves were so totally different that it's just, they each brought their own personality and, their, what do you call it? Their background,
energy to
their
it,
knowledge.
background, yeah.
Kind of wrapped up in one.
It's so much fun to collaborate. And it's funny because unless you actually do something like the projects you're talking about, you would think writing a book by yourself is the way that you do it until you actually get involved in writing books and collaborating. And there's so much back and forth that people just don't understand unless you're actually living it. And I didn't know that until we started doing that. And it's just, you just kind of feed off of that energy.
You do, and it gets better as a result of that because you're thinking of things and stuff that nobody else would think about. The one thing that you don't want to hear is like you write something yourself or whatever, and it's out there and whatever, and somebody says, it's a great book or whatever, but it would have been great had you included this or done this or whatever, which that problem may have been solved when you're working with a group of people or a co-author, because you're sharing those ideas, or like what we did when we're going outside the box even and asking teachers to look at something, review something. Here's a list of questions. What would you do? Here's, what we're thinking of doing at this section or whatever. What do you think? I mean, because
it's one of those things that you're putting yourself out there, whether it's a composition or a photo or anything you're sharing. It's part of yourself to put it out there to somebody else to critique.
Right.
It's a little nerve-wracking, right? But
it is nerve-wracking, but it's also a benefit to the product because they feel, the people that you're asking questions about or asking for their feedback, they feel like they're included in that project and that they had some say in it. So they'll be more than likely to use it themselves. And you've covered all your bases. You feel like, once you've signed off on a book or whatever, that you pretty much did everything that you could. You talked to the right people, you did the right amount of research, and you put together what you think is, the best possible publication for Alfred or any other publisher that book is being, published by. And so, yes, you may get some, negative feedback or so on, but I think you minimize it. And I think that's always going to happen. And you just have to do the best that you can and get the most advice that you can and the most resources or whatever, and do the best to put all that together into a cohesive, product.
That's exactly right. And the answer to your question is we're all your favorite co-authors. And I'm glad to be lumped into that group, and then I love working with you, and I've always appreciated your help, support, friendship, and everything else. So I think that's going to wrap it up for us.
Feelings mutual, and you know that, so I don't have to say that. So
thank you so much. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Dave, for our 5 questions with Dave Black.
Thank you so much. I appreciated it. This was a lot of fun.
Bye.
Have a good day.